The referee for this contest is Paul Simpkins in his 179th first grade appointment. A healthy crowd here at Brookvale Oval, late arriving.
Right.
After last week's loss to Newcastle, albeit a narrow one, the Eagles do have a glimmer of hope. Luke DeVico, who was the top meters man for the Canberra Raiders, is the first man ball in hand in this round 22 clash. Jason Croker used as the decoy and as the front row partner Ryan O'Hara. The two have worked in tandem near perfectly all year. Ruben Wiki. It is a very big and very physical Canberra pack. They don't come much bigger than that man, Tyron Smith, locking the scrum after starting the year on the bench. A healthy 10 metres is being kept by referee Simpkins in this opening exchange. And from acting half, Simon Woolford, Wayne Pearce completes what is a very structured and well-performed opening set of six.
Yeah, it was a regulation set to start the game off for the Canberra Raiders, and they come here today off the back of an unlucky loss to the Roosters last week. They played some superb football, pipped on the post against the Roosters. That's going to be a really big test for them mentally to try and build up again for this game.
This is Solomon Hamono operating down the short side. The Canberra defenders are there in numbers. It was 4 of them that brought down the former professional boxer. And Luke Dawn, with the assistance of a healthy breeze, gets the ball downfield. Not a lot of urgency shown at the back by 2 of the Canberra 3, Adam Mogg and Clinton Chavosky. One of the highlights of Manly's performance last week, in fact, against Newcastle, was the long kicking game of the halfback Dawn, who hasn't had a mortgage on the number 7 jersey this year. In fact, has only got his opportunity as a regular late in the season with the injury, the season-ending injury to Jason Ferris.
It's going to be important in this first half that the Manly side via Luke Dawn use this breeze. They've got a big breeze in the first half, and they'll need to use that and use it early in the tackle count to try and keep the Raiders pinned down their end of the field.
This is the final tackle. They operate the short side through their pivot. Jason Croker, an awkward bounce for the Sea Eagles. And Mitch Creary had to utilise all of his speed to outgun Jason Bulgarelli on that Canberra left-hand side. Manly truly emphasising the fact in season 2003 that a team and a club's defence is a direct platform to how well their attack is used. If Manly's defence is in order, Wayne Pearce, statistically they win a lot of games. If they concede too many points and too early, which is a problem, they generally struggle.
Well, that's a very good point, Andy, because in terms of attack, Manly have averaged 24 points a game this year. The Raiders have only averaged 25 points a game, but the big difference is the Raiders have only conceded 19 points a game, but Manly have conceded a massive 29 points a game throughout the season.
Good field position for the Raiders on this, their third set with the ball. Ian Hindmarsh, who's signed with the club, one of 5 former Parramatta players in the full-time squad of 25. Poor ball security there from Luke DeVico. The first error of the contest, midfield. It will give Manly the first opportunity to head into Raiders territory.
Yeah, well, Solomon Hamono ranging up there, putting a bit of pressure on the defence, getting up out of the defensive line. Luke DeVico, uncharacteristic, coming up with an error.
Outside up. Ball in. Down.
Williamson, one further to Albert Torrance. Torrance, too, was exceptional at fullback. Last weekend against the Knights, in fact, Mitch Creary started that game in jersey number 1. But after a disappointing opening 20 minutes, was shifted on to the right wing. He remains in that position this afternoon. This is Dawn, one wider to Williamson. Plenty of depth in the attack for Manly. McGuinness on the end of a good ball from Stephen Menzies. Plenty of a pressure applied to the centre 3/4. This is tackle 4 through Creary. The first genuine opportunity at points. 25 metres out. Randall puts boot to ball. An awkward kick. Shafovsky is at the back. Didn't have to make a play for it, and leading that kick chase Probably the unlikely hero, Wayne Pearce, Solomon Amono.
Yeah, Solomon Amono is very quick off the mark, probably one of the quickest players, forwards I should say, in the competition, over 10, 20 metres, but almost got there. Flirting with danger was Clinton Schifosky on that occasion.
This is Ian Hindmarsh. The Manly home record has been the talk of much dressing room debate. They have won 4 and lost 5 in 2003, and that record really pales by comparison to the glory years of the 80s and 90s for what is and was the glamour club, the side that it seemed everyone loved to hate the Sea Eagles, and that was based simply on their success. Some second phase football provided by Luke DeVico. Ryan O'Hara ends up with a ballless tackle 40 metres out from the reward line. They go to the halfback Mick Linden. A good test early for Torrens, faultless. Under the high ball, his first for the afternoon.
No doubt that they'll be continuing to pepper Albert Torrens at fullback. Unusual for him. He primarily plays in the centres, but back at fullback and done a reasonable job there. But the other guy that's going to be peppered under the high ball, no doubt, will be Clinton Schifosky when they get down that end of the field, because he had a disappointing finish to a strong game last week, which ended up costing the Raiders a performance due to a drop ball right on full time.
It's disappointing how regularly that has been brought up throughout the week for poor Clinton Schifosky, who really has enjoyed career best form in 2003. Fields that ball well with plenty of players circling him around him. Joel Monaghan, whose brother's Michael is to be a Sea Eagle next year.
Tremendous enthusiasm from the Manly side so far in this game, and if they're going to win this game, they've got to maintain that enthusiasm and get up and bustle this Raiders outfit, as they're doing just at the moment, right throughout this game, because the Raiders really rely on quick go forwards. They rely on these quick play the balls to get a bit of a roll on, and if the Manly side can get up on them and try and slow them down in that area, they're going to be a huge, or there could be a huge upset.
Tackle number 5 for the Canberra Raiders, just into Manly territory. Again, it's Woolford operating from acting half, and that is a poor end.
He's all right. Change it over, Simon. Bring
to
it
the
back.
set of 6. Simon Woolford filthy and emotion spilling over.
Play it.
Yeah, well, there's no excuse for that. The referee had his hand up. He called 5th tackle, called last tackle, and Simon Woolford had a dummy half. Just plain and simply must have lost concentration.
Luke Williamson taken in a high tackle.
Hold it.
And Williamson in a great deal of trouble in the background. Let's see exactly why. Straight on the chin from Simon Woolford. Not his go, but it is high.
Doc.
Well, Simon Woolford, he was very disappointed that he got caught on the previous play by turning the ball over on the last tackle, and he was frustrated and I suppose dirty on himself, but he obviously lost a little bit of concentration and was fired up going into that tackle, and it was well and truly high, and interesting to see what action the referee takes.
A stop in play as Luke Williamson has tended to. The Manly Sea Eagles doctor is onto the field. This is Simon Woolford. He was tackled by Williamson the previous play, blew up at the end of the tackle count, a little bit of push and shove. Let's keep an eye on exactly what happens here with Simon Woolford. Solomon Amono takes the ball up. This is where they get some second phase football. We follow the Canberra captain and whack. Croker was there. Croker was just above the chest, but it was the Simon Woolford tackle that has caused the injury.
And yeah, exactly, as a result of him being frustrated, and this is the importance in a game of rugby league at NRL level, you've got to maintain your composure. If you make a mistake, you've got to put that behind you. You've got to give immediate closure to the situation.
Will Simon Woolford see any more of this match? Matthew Elliott, Wayne Collins and the Canberra staff would like to think so. Our referee Paul Simpkins isn't afraid to send off. His last send-off was round 11 this year, Paul Gallen in the Cronulla-Newcastle match. And Simon Woolford waiting extremely nervously.
And let's talk about Luke Williamson. They're calling for the stretcher at the moment, so obviously he's in a pretty bad way. He's still on the ground, still in a great deal of discomfort. I'm not even sure if he's conscious, regained consciousness at the moment.
Luke Williamson, who played his junior football at Brothers Holy Spirit in Brisbane, and went on to play for Adelaide, amongst other clubs. He's the nephew of former Aussie winger Lionel Williamson, and whose utility value has been sound for the Sea Eagles so far this year. Lock, second row, and pivot.
And he's a lone figure out there, Simon Woolford. You look at him, all the other players are back in the defensive line. He's standing up there where the penalty is going to be given. And, yeah, it was just flush on the jaw.
Ironically, it is Ben Walker warming up on the sideline, who on 2 occasions this year has suffered extreme concussions. Wayne Pearce has had a season punctuated by injury. Peter Sharp, with John Hopewadi in the background helping Sharp today, look on.
Yeah.
And it must be devastating for a coach looking on at a young player who he admires so much in the form of Luke Williamson. Des Hasler, the Manly trainer and Manly coach for 2004, as it was confirmed during the week, talking to his players out there.
And the medical staff taking every precaution with Luke Williamson, making sure that they're covering all bases in terms of any possible injuries. Let's just hope he's nothing more than just being knocked out. He seems to have regained consciousness at this stage. And a lot of things going through different people's minds. The referee contemplating what action he's going to take. Simon Woolford looks on. He's wondering what the referee's thinking, wondering what could have been if he had have maintained his composure after turning that ball over on the last tackle. So a lot of tension out there at the moment, and the decision will have a huge bearing on the outcome of this game.
We saw Brian Fletcher's tackle last night on Trent Clayton in the Tigers-Rabbitohs match. It was high and it left Clayton not a well boy. Fletcher stayed on the field. I guess in respect to the referees, it very much comes down to consistency, and Paul Simpkins is in a position at the moment that I certainly don't envy.
Well, it comes down to consistency within the referee. You can't necessarily guarantee consistency from referee to referee, but you've got to guarantee, a referee's got to guarantee consistency within a game.
Paul Simpkins watching on. Luke Williamson, as you can see, is conscious. He has come to, but in quite a deal of distress, keeps trying to lift the head up and get up off the ground. He is in a different world.
And now you've also got to cast your mind to what the other players, how they'll look on this, what the other players will be thinking, what the other Manly players will be thinking. What are they saying to themselves? Oh, no doubt that they'll be using this as a form of motivation. They'll be looking to G themselves up, looking to make Canberra pay within the confines of the rules, and they'll use this to fire themselves up. So Luke Williamson, he wants to get up. He doesn't want to go off on a stretcher. No player wants to leave the field on a stretcher, but unfortunately, as a precaution, he may have to go off lying on his back. Solomon Amono is deep in thought.
Tough one down. Come on, mate. Stay there, boss. Help me off, mate. Come back.
Can't breathe.
Stay down, mate.
Can't fucking breathe, fuck you.
Can't breathe.
Good luck, come on, mate. Stay there.
Stay there, mate.
Well, that's all right, mate. You can breathe, mate. Oh, fuck. Well, that's all right, mate.
Come on, mate.
Take him off. That's a shame, because that Woolford thing was great, but this has all been good too. Sitting up.
Yeah, okay.
Paul Blumfield. Bloomfield. When do we...
Oh, so we'll have a look at it. I've seen the point of contact as well, all right? Yeah.
Simon Woolford has been sent off. in the 7th minute of this round 22 contest.
Wait on, mate. Wait.
He runs past Luke Williamson, who is being assisted from the field after the best part of 8 minutes on the ground.
Yeah, hang on.
And Canberra are down to 12 and without their captain.
There we go. That's your mark.
Yeah, it's a big blow there for the Raiders, and they'll be wanting to get Brad Drew on there as soon as possible, get a specialist dummy half on there. But more importantly, it's going to fire these Manly Sea Eagles up.
Homono charging into the line. He is followed by Danny Lima. Tackle number 1. King. Second phase football moving out to the left-hand side. Luke Dawn. Albert Torrens met in a heavy one-on-one tackle by Adam Mogg. Across field. This is McDougall. Looks to jink on the inside. On their line, the Raiders. The Eagles looking for first points here at Brookvale.
That's 4. Hands out of there.
Chad Randall at acting half. This is tackle 4. Luke Dawn. Boot to ball. They are there in numbers. And perhaps we have a try.
Put out. Daddy.
Scott Donald eventually getting the ball into the in-goal area.
Hold.
But after consoling with his touch judge, Paul Simpkins doesn't want to go upstairs.
One.
Yeah, it was Albert Torrens coming through here. I think he put a foot over the dead ball line before he flicked the ball back. Whoa! No, it was the Canberra player. Canberra player, Joel Monahan, touched the ball outside the field of play.
Mark McLinden, the starting halfback, has moved in, it seems, to acting half. Jason Croker on the left-hand side at first receiver. The ball goes to Ruben Wiki. Back to Shafovsky, a hurried pass. Likewise again back to the number 7. Steps around McDougall. Monahan outside. McLinden opts for the kick and gets the ricochet. The ball not played at, according to our referee Simpkins, who has had a torrid start to this encounter. O'Hara onto Hindmarsh. Tackled right on the halfway line. This is the 5th and final option. They go to McLinden on the short side. And this could very well be the new game plan for the Canberra Raiders, who are down to 12, as the little red stroke underneath the Canberra on our graphic indicates. Player sent off.
Yeah, we don't see that too often through the NRL seasons nowadays, but referee Paul Simpkins, he had no doubt whatsoever the action he was going to take.
Outside leg up, props. The outside man in. Hey, bring it back. Bring it back. You go down with him. Ball in. In. It's out.
Manly with the football through Albert Torrens. Running to the open side of the field. Torrens, who made 205 metres last week in courtesy of 3 spectacular line breaks against Newcastle. Jason King. Tackled just short of halfway in an encounter with plenty of energy and plenty of emotion after some strained early relations between the two clubs. Creary from acting half in jersey number 5. This is the final tackle. Luke Dawn puts the ball over. Monahan is there. And perhaps the wrong wing to go to, Wayne Pearce. Joel Monahan well over the 6-foot mark, and for a winger very hard to outleap.
Yeah, it was a strange tactic.
Your hand out then. Put the hand on the ball, holding it up.
Strange tactic on that occasion because Joel Monahan was back there. They haven't tested Shafovsky under the high ball as yet, but I think the ball along the ground behind the line, a shortened line, means they're going to be struggling to try and get back in defence as well with one less player on the field. DeVico.
Good forward progress. A gain of 15 metres from the tap restart on just the first. This is Wiki. He finds Tyron Smith. The Manly defensive line is coming up extremely quickly. Not in front of the referee from the point, but up quickly.
And the reason they're able to do that is because they're slowing Canberra down in the play of the ball. It means their defensive line set and they're sprinting up off the line. Enthusiasm is outstanding, and it's been like that since the kickoff.
Jason Croker back to Hindmarsh, who fumbles. Regains control of the football. Tackle number 4, Croker to DeVico. They look to play an expansive brand. McLinden puts boot to ball. It finds Scott Donald easily. And you can bet that the Canberra right-hand side defence will not allow Scott Donald any room to move at all this afternoon. The NRL's leading try scorer, 19 games this year, has scored 18 4-pointers. That's certainly becoming a Solomon Hamono trademark. Players want to go low around the midriff area of the former pro boxer. He is flicking the ball over the top basketball style.
Flop. He's on the ground. Flop. Okay. That's 10. Got a hole there and a flop.
Well, Jason Croker, they're complaining about the 10 metres. He says it's 13 metres, but Paul Simpkins says, nope, I'm not going to deflect my attention from the flops.
Whether it's 12, 8, 13 or 1, as long as the consistency for both sides remains, it really doesn't matter on Simpkins' behalf. Where he stands the defensive line, it's just Jason Croker just trying to eat up a little bit more time. It is going to be an energy-sapping performance. Dawn, wrapped up well by Mogg. Ruben Wiki puts boot to ball. The initial knock-on will be played. From the Sea Eagles will be Canberra's loose and feed for the scrum.
Play knock-on.
And a little lucky there too, Manly, because I thought when Luke Dawn knocked the ball on, when Luke Dawn knocked the ball on, I thought that the number 17, Ben Walker, was in front of him there and kicks the ball back. Thought it could have been a penalty to the Canberra Raiders.
And the news from the dressing room is that Luke Williamson will not be back. An extreme concussion, is suffering from blurred vision. So the Sea Eagles, in effect, are down to 16 men, just 3 on the interchange bench. Canberra has the full complement on the interchange bench, but just 12 on the field for the remainder of the contest. Croker hit by Hamono. And they will feel that along the peninsula up to Palm Beach. Hamono showed a renewed enthusiasm last week against the Knights. Plenty of energy and sting in his defence. And offside.
Offside. Doesn't matter. He's rated, he's in front.
Brad Drew, one of 3 Canberra players on the bench, ready to come on. Sean Rutgerson waiting for his instructions as well.
Yeah, I think it's important that they get Brad Drew out there, so they've got a specialist dummy half, because when you lose a specialist dummy half, it tends to disjoint the attack, and the Raiders are suffering a little bit in terms of their fragmented attack.
Hindmarsh taking the first, and he is extremely groggy. Ian Hindmarsh. A little bit of care taken there and caution from even some of the Manly players. It is the last thing the Raiders need after Simon Woolford being sent from the field.
Yeah, it looked like when he carted the ball up, he sort of went down in the tackle to cart the ball up, sort of bent forward and caught one, bang. Another.
This is
that one there. That's the one. That's the lead-up play. Oh, that's the play afterwards, I should say. Here it is. He goes down, and it was a head clash. Poor Chad Randall.
And anyone with a surname Randall has got a reasonably hard melody.
I would imagine.
Oh, there, we're on tackle 2. Okay, back it up.
He's been
Here we go,
certainly
boys.
one of the buys of the year, Ian Hindmarsh, since moving over from the Eels. This is DeVico. The restart in play early in the count for the Raiders. In the 16th minute, it is 0-0. Here at Brookvale, McLinden scheming. Wiki finds Jason Croker. Brad Drew coming onto the field in back play.
You're offside, Ben. No, I haven't.
Ian Hindmarsh is having a rest. Brad Drew is on. McLinden looking for the line, is brought down just centimetres from it. That is Drew into acting half. Croker at first receiver. One further to Tyron Smith. Ruben Wiki used as the decoy. A strip there. Croker. De Monahan out wide. That is first points to the Canberra Raiders.
Let's have a look at that ball come out. Got a knock back or knock on. Good.
The referee's going to check how the ball came out. I thought actually it could have been a penalty to the Raiders because I thought it was a two-man tackle and a strip. But he wants to see whether or not Tyron Smith lost the ball forward before he rules the try. So there's a two-man tackle, and I thought it was a two-man strip, so I thought it should have been a penalty. So in effect, it'll be play on. Croker goes wide, and Joel Monahan does what he does in a tremendous fashion this year, goes over, and I think that'll be Joel Monahan's 13th try for the season. But as we can see here, two players in there. Ben McDougall's the guy who attempts to strip the football. Out the back, Jason Croker picks up the dregs and offloads out wide. The Manly players came in to try and shut down the ball in tight, but in so doing, Scotty Donald got caught short.
Joel Monahan, certainly a handful, and has been all year for opposing defenders. Down to 12 men, it looks like the Raiders will play from in front for the remainder of this contest. In fact, we do have first points to that man, Joel Monahan. And the Sydney Green Brigade go up. They are in the minority very much here at Brookvale Oval.
And when you've got enthusiastic defence, as the Manly side is, one thing you can't afford to do if you're up in your face is allow second phase play or offloads, because it catches your defence short out wide when you come up in your face and come in. And on that occasion, with Scott Donald that came in field, wasn't expecting the second phase play and got caught short.
Good opening try after a disastrous 18 minutes for the Canberra Raiders. And preparing to add the extras is Clinton Schifofsky, who is taking a mile of time from the near side touchline here at Brookvale Oval. You can't wrap up the ball for the remaining hour of this contest, but Wayne, you'll see the Canberra Raiders try every trick in the book through their experienced players to soak up as much time as they can.
And haven't they got a lot of experienced players? And mind you, those experienced players are balanced by a good sprinkling of young players right across the paddock.
Hits it well, Schifofsky, but it is left. So the score remains Canberra 4, Manly 0 after 18 minutes here at Brookvale Oval. The Raiders reiterating it down to just 12 men. Brad Drew injected into the game as hooker far earlier than the game plan of Matthew Elliott would have liked midweek. Playing with just 5 running forwards, in fact, the Raiders. Ian Hindmarsh getting a well-earned break. And Wayne, a very key aspect in reference to the Raiders side is now down to 12 men, how Matthew Elliott utilises the interchange bench.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's something that coaches don't practice for, don't expect, because very rarely nowadays in the NRL are players sent from the field. So it's somewhat foreign territory for Matt Elliott, and I'm sure it'll be a tremendous learning experience for him to get through this period from here to full time.
Considering prior results so far this weekend, the Raiders are sitting in 3rd place on the competition ladder. A victory here would move them back up into 2nd. A loss would see them sitting just on the fringe of the all-important top 4. And it is certainly a position they would dearly love and rightfully deserve after being dominant for the majority of the year. Rewarded with a home semi-final. Brad Drew scheming from the ruck. It is knock on and 6 again. Ryan O'Hara charging through the line. They need to compose themselves, the Raiders. The tackle count has restarted. This is Bugarelli crabbing across field. Brad Drew at acting half. I thought Jason King was offside there, not quite the marker. They come to the right-hand side. Ruben Wiki. Extremely difficult to bring down from close quarters. It requires 3 defenders to do just that. Nick Linden at acting half. Brad Drew. Second man ball to Ryan O'Hara. Solid tackle there by Solomon Hamono. They switch the point of play, coming back to where they were successful earlier. The perfect scorecard for Joel Monaghan, who has collected an early double here at Brookvale. Wayne Pearce was a carbon copy of their first try. It was an overlap in numbers. It was a case of draw and pass.
Yeah, the left side Manly defence is disjointed. Look at there, have a look. We see that one guy go in, Ben McDoodle stays out wide, McDonald stays out wide, and there's no structure to their left side defence whatsoever. The right side's very tight, but this left side, Luke Dawn gets caught out in the end, but I think it was Ben McDougall that went in. Luke Dawn stayed out wide. There he is there. Ben McDougall goes in. Luke Dawn stays out wide, gets wrong-footed. Mogg passes the ball out there, and Joel Monaghan goes over for another try. So real problems for Peter Sharp on their left side defence. Their right side, not a problem in the world, but their left side defence is very, very ragged.
Monaghan is the Raiders' leading try scorer for the year. And there is a dejected Manly outfit going through the side. Captain Stephen Menzies not with a lot to say, but that man has. Their trainer, Des Hasler, who will be the head coach here next year. Read an article quoting Stephen Menzies throughout the week. Des Hasler has that appearance of being the quiet, very shy, and ultimately polite young footballer, the boy next door. Stephen Menzies declaring that Des isn't that quiet and sometimes isn't that polite and is in the perfect mould to be a coach. This is Clinton Schifofsky, missed his earlier attempt. A slightly easier angle. But the same result for Schifofsky. Again, a little too much right to left on the football, not coming off well, which has been a rarity so far this year. Schifofsky with a personal tally of 175 points this year, second in the NRL. They are down 8-0. The home side, the Sea Eagles, could so easily have been 12-0 if Schifofsky had been on with the boot. Mick Linden. And again, O'Hara.
Well, he's having a huge game, Ryan O'Hara. He just carts the ball forward. He's fearless, and they work in tandem. This guy, Reuben Wiki, Ryan O'Hara, they piggyback off each other in their runs, and they chew up enormous yards in defence, which gives the backline players enormous room to put their plays on.
Ruckerson almost able to get the hands free, and if he had of, Adam Mogg was there and running with plenty of enthusiasm. This is Bugarelli.
Ben, roll out. You're laying there, no movement. You're laying across him, go that way.
Sign of just how well this Canberra outfit is going in the top grade is by reflecting and looking back at their Premier League side. How about this for a three-quarter line? Rod Jensen, Phil Graham, James Evans and Michael Robinson are the three-quarters in the Premier League side.
Well, Phil Graham, it was being touted at the start of the year as an outsider for the Queensland State of Origin side, and he can't force his way back into this Canberra first-grade side at the moment. So, as you say, it points out just how much competition he's got ahead of him.
Tyron Smith capitalising on some good metres and a quick play. The ball, the tackle earlier from Ryan O'Hara. Drew from acting half, had Wiki in support. 22 metres out, Schifofsky to Mick Linden. Back to Tyron Smith. That is the fifth and final tackle. The Raiders looking for their third for the afternoon. Mick Linden. The ball was trapped.
Change over, not played at, kicked into him.
And there was a hint Solomon Amono may have held the halfback away from the football. Paul Simpkins didn't agree.
Over the side.
Well, Mark McClendon there, similar to Simon Woolford, he was still grieving over the decision that went against him. He was still grieving at the decision that went against him, wasn't concentrating, not in position, and you know, you got to, when you make a mistake at this level, put it behind you, get on with the game, or the game goes past you.
Yep, Mark McClendon. But the issue there, and again, Hamono charging into the line exactly as Ryan O'Hara has been doing, and I would suggest with Jason Ryle's season-ending injury, as far as the Kangaroos are concerned, Ryan O'Hara is starting to stake a real claim. His football is improving all year.
Yeah, he has been one of the, not only the big improvers, but one of the real consistent forwards. And the reason that the Raiders are going so well, one of the huge reasons the Raiders are going so well, is his form week in, week out. It's just superb. He lays that platform in the go forward.
Shafovsky with plenty of pressure from McDougall and Donald. Well taken by the Canberra custodian. Not a lot of room in which to work. A poor pass from Mogg to the try scorer Monaghan. Again, a quick play the ball. Manly are not dominating the ruck. Again, they have been slow to start.
And that's, if Canberra do anything better than any other team in the competition, it is control the play the ball. They concede the least metres in defence as a result of controlling the play the ball, and they gain the most metres in attack. So Manly have got to match them in that area. Even with 12 men, they've still got to match them in that area, or they can write this game off.
Again, a poor kick from Mark McLinden. Keep in mind, though, that the Raiders, for the opening 40 minutes here, are running into a reasonably strong breeze. That is at the back of the Seagulls. Creary crabbing across field. The game plan in which Manly are employing against a 12-man Raiders outfit, for mine anyway, doesn't seem to be the right one in these early exchanges. Just under 14 minutes remaining in the half.
Side. No, he's laying in there. Go to the side.
And the penalties are now level. 4 apiece awarded by Paul Simpkins.
Need to say, sometimes the Raiders go a little bit overboard in trying to slow down the opposition, as Sean Rutchinson did on that occasion.
They are behind by 8, the home side. The Seagulls faithful have found voice. This is Mark Shipway in for Aaron Cannings, who is suffering a severe bout of the flu. McDougall to Dawn. One wider to Ben Walker. Changes the point of the attack as Walker is caught by Ruben Wiki midfield. Again to the left-hand side through Dawn. Inside ball to Stephen Menzies. Menzies charges to the line and reaches out.
Just check to see the ball doesn't touch the ground first, Phil. I've got an opinion on it.
You heard Paul Simpkins say he does have an opinion of it, and in fact, if this is a try, that is a near superhuman effort by Menzies. 4 defenders there. The arm doesn't touch the ground. That is brilliant.
Tremendous effort. Look at the strength of this guy. He hasn't touched the ground with the arm carrying the football. He's entitled to stretch out. The tackle wasn't completed. That'll be a try, and a great effort there. Ball back on the inside. Menzies always dangerous from broken play, and it was effectively broken play, albeit close to the line. But the power of this guy, we think of him as being quick and mobile, but he is very, very strong.
It will be career try 108 for the veteran Manly captain Stephen Menzies, second on the all-time list of try scorers for this famous club, behind the legendary Bob Fulton, who has 129. This is how it transpired.
Good ball back on the inside from Luke Dawn to Menzies. And have a look, the Raiders come from everywhere. They still couldn't shut him down. In fact, Shafovsky at the end got caught with his back towards Menzies because he twisted around, thought Menzies had been shut down. As we can see here, watch Clint Shafovsky turns around, think he's shut down. The ball pops around behind him, little sneaky one, bang, down on the line. That's a try.
Through 4 defenders, Stephen Menzies, Ben Walker. Potting the extras for the home side. The difference is down to 2 with just under 12 minutes remaining in this first half, and every reason to fly the maroon and white colours of the Sea Eagles here at Brooky. It is 13 on 12.
And as you pointed out a little bit earlier, 137 career tries. What a fantastic effort. But as you pointed out a little bit earlier, Andy, the fact that the Raiders will be running with the breeze in the second half is something that they're really going to need to milk, because given that they've got only 3 interchange players, it means that their forwards are going to be very, very tired in the second half. So they've got to try and stay with Manly in the first half, use the breeze in the second half, and hopefully they've got enough fuel in the tank.
The Eagles with a boost of energy, a boost of enthusiasm, and the confidence that goes with it. They certainly had an overlap on the left-hand side. Mark Shipway dropping the ball. And this is Sean Rutgerson turning defence into attack. Jersey number 14 for the Raiders. In 16, it is Troy Thompson. Deceptive, but a big boy, Thompson. Drew to Wiki. Broker. Nice ball on to Bugarelli. Jason Bugarelli charges to the line. They will not stop the centre three-quarter. That is the Raiders' third for the afternoon. Just as it looked like Manly was gaining the ascendancy, Wayne Pearce, the Raiders have struck.
Yeah, and as we mentioned earlier, against this fast-moving Manly defence, it's the second phase play that's going to cause problems. And this is where the error came in. Turnover here, Manly not completing their sets. The Raiders work back upfield. Great acceleration there by Sean Wilkinson. Gets a quick play of the ball. Then the ball goes out wide, and this is the second phase. Bang, engage. Engage here, offload Jason Croker. That put the Manly defensive line in tatters. Bugarelli hits the line at speed. And, well, where were the Manly defenders? You'd think they were down a man. There were just no numbers out there at all. But it's the second phase play that's causing Manly all sorts of problems. And Bugarelli, how good's he going? He's playing tremendous football. Good enough to keep Phil Graham in reserve grade.
And Bugarelli, in only his fourth appearance of the season, a late bloomer in rugby league terms, well in his late 20s, Jason Bugarelli, before making his debut earlier this year. In fact, I think it was in the Canterbury game. Mark McLinden with a smile on the face, or a cringe, as Clinton Shafovsky looks to open his account for the afternoon. Shafovsky has missed it, and the news continues to worsen for the visiting Raiders. You saw Mark McLinden hunched over with the towel over the hand. McLinden is straight back to the dressing room with what we suspect could be a compound fracture of the finger, in plenty of pain. And if in fact McLinden is out, Wayne Pearce, not only are the Raiders down to 12, they are without their ruckman, and really they're without their first receiver. So the emphasis now moves on to Brad Drew and Jason Croker. Alan Tongue into the game for the first time.
Yeah, and Andy, and if you were to lose any two players from any team in the competition, it's your dummy half and your first receiver who touch the ball more than anyone else that's going to cause you problems in terms of
Steve,
your attack. So
go that way.
they're two key men that they've lost.
Hey, keeping him down there. That's right.
This is the reason why Paul Simpkins blew the whistle. Steve Menzies just carrying on with the tackle a little too long. They will enjoy the second half, will the visiting Raiders. The breeze continues to pick up at the back of the Eagles. Oh, Tongue met in a ferocious tackle. Again, it's that man Hamono in his 11th tackle of the afternoon. The front row has been busy. This is Ruben Wiki. Inside ball. They are in again, the Raiders, through Jamal Alessi. The Sea Eagles previously had opened up on the right. They had opened up on the left. Ruben Wiki opened them up straight down the middle.
He's like trying to stop a tank, Ruben Wiki, and the man who he beat was Stephen Menzies, who's a recognised solid defender. But Wiki gets through. Support play great from Jamal Alessi there, coming up on the inside, looming up on the inside, and well, this is danger time for the Manly side, because the floodgates are really opening up around the ruck on this occasion. They've been loose out wide, but on that occasion, they were slopping in around to play the ball, and they can't afford to not compete in the rucks with the Raiders, or this score could be anything. Despite the Raiders only having 12 men, they're just dominating in the centre of the ruck yet again.
Jamal Alessi, 10 tries for the season. It's something Canberra will miss next year. He is one of several players signed by the Bulldogs for 2004 and beyond. Matthew Elliott, it has been quite a 34 minutes for the Canberra coach. His side is up 16-6. The difference is about to be out to 12. Shafovsky with a very rare and very off day with the boot. 0-3. This one from right in front to extend the lead with just over 5 minutes remaining in the opening half. All too easy for the Canberra fullback this time round. So it is 2 converted tries separating the two sides. Canberra Raiders have competed extremely well considering the odds being stacked very much against them.
And what's really helped the Raiders so far in this game is a glut of possession. They've had 61% of possession in this first half. They've effectively been starving the Manly side of possession, and that's been able to keep them not only in this game but allow them to really dominate this first half. They've completed 18 of 19 sets. Their discipline has been outstanding.
The news from the dressing rooms: Mark McLinden hasn't suffered a compound fracture, a badly lacerated finger, and the Raiders doctor is in the sheds at the moment, stitching the finger up. We expect to see Mark McLinden back into action in the early moments of the second half. It is 4 tries to 1. One aspect of play that can't be understated is the possession of both sides. Canberra have had an amazing 62% of the ball, and putting his body on the line to prevent that from happening again, Albert Torrens.
And Matty Elliott, obviously, before the game has targeted a defensive weakness from Manly, and that is the space behind the line. Albert Torrens, not an experienced fullback, defends very, very deep at fullback. There's a huge vacuum, a huge space behind the line there that the Raiders have tried to attack on a number of occasions in this game, and they've had a reasonable amount of success at doing that.
Again, a potential overlap for the Sea Eagles on the right-hand side of the field. They are weary legs that the Raiders are running on. Anthony Watmow apologising to his teammates. He knew exactly what was on. They just weren't able to retain possession of the football.
Well, it's fundamental errors like that that really do frustrate coaches. But against the Raiders in the sort of form they're in,
seconds in,
coming up to half-time, it's a dangerous mistake.
Ball in, it's out.
The error count, not a lot in it. There's the completion rates. Canberra have been near faultless, 19 from 20 possessions of the footy. Ruben Wiki continues to impress. That is Wiki's 6th hit up of the afternoon. Ryan O'Hara leads that statistic, and convincingly, despite spending plenty of time off the field in this opening 40. Tyron Smith. The Raiders are looking for their 5th try of the afternoon. The clock counting down towards half-time. Brad Drew challenges Torrens, who knocks on. That was tackle 4. So the Raiders will have 10 tackles at the Sea Eagles line.
Yeah, Albert Torrens is going to have some nightmares about this match. He's being tested with all sorts of kicks. On this occasion, it was an awkward bounce. Other times he's been tested because the ball's been put in front of him in the gap behind the line as well.
And Torrens' worst nightmare, perhaps, Wayne, has been the enthusiasm of the chasing team. They have been pressuring Albert Torrens at the back. No matter what type of kick it is, the chasing team has been a good one. Brad Drew, Shafovsky through the centre, looking at the line. It is 6 again for the Canberra Raiders. In total, they will have 11 tackles to try and break this Manly line. This is where they had a lot of luck earlier. There's nothing lucky about that. That was good defensive work from Scott Donald on that occasion, denying Joel Monahan a first-half hat-trick early in the count. Jason Croker put the kick through Wayne Pearce. Scotty Donald cleaning up the mess at the back.
Scott Donald did particularly well because he had to turn and chase to get back, and he still was quick enough to get back and beat Joel Monahan to the football. It was a great effort.
The result is another set of 6, and Mitch Creary giving a big don't argue to Jamal Alessi, one of the try scorers for the Canberra Raiders. Solid body contact from the winger. Alan Tongue. Under a minute remaining in this opening half. Brad Drew, long ball to Ruben Wiki. Straightens the point of the attack. Through Menzies again. This is Adam Mong. Could not find his support anywhere. 2 tackles remain. Shafovsky, long ball to Drew. The defensive line is up quickly. Back to the fullback. He steps one way, moves the other. Shafovsky causing headaches.
Out. Ben Walker. No, you're off.
And a penalty on the final play
Up there, cut the play
of
off.
their 3rd successive set of 6.
If you're onside, there's no problem. That's it.
And Jason Croker,
Come out here, Ben.
who is the acting captain in the absence of Simon Woolford, offers to take the 2.
Yeah.
You don't just start leveling.
Hey, be careful what you say, and be careful with the allegation, all right?
I'm not alligating.
Oh, as we said, but listen what I'm saying. Okay, well, listen what I say. When we were walking back to the side, to the kick-off there before, I was telling you,
I'm on side.
hold the mark. You're going a mile early, mate. The touch judges are calling you every play.
The touch judge is calling
When,
every play.
when you cut the play off and it goes the other way, I'm going to come in here and penalise you, and that's what we did. Okay? Next one could be sin bin, so watch it. That's 2 penalties.
Stephen Menzies begging for a caution.
I had to laugh at Ben Walker
Just
on
keep
that
your 10,
occasion.
that's all you got to worry about.
Ben Walker made a statement. The referee said, "Be careful of the allegations," and Ben Walker said, "I'm not alligating." Oh, what about this Wiki run too? Like, he's just been almost unstoppable out on that right-hand side. He perches himself out wide on the right-hand side in most games, and he hits the ball at speed, running at smaller backs. He breaks that line time after time.
The Canberra Raiders have had an amazing 64% of first half possession. The field position has been reasonably well shared, and a lot of their possession comes down to those 2 men, Luke DeVico and Ryan O'Hara. Behind them, Terry Madison, the assistant coach, former State of Origin player and Brisbane lock forward. And after a disappointing start to the day with the boot, Clinton Shafovsky, in the final seconds of the opening half, gets basically a gift 2 points. Shafovsky adds another 2. An emotional charged opening 40 minutes. The Canberra Raiders leading the Manly Sea Eagles 20 points to 6. 4 tries to 1 in favour of the visiting Raiders, whose away record this year is 8 of 11. In complete contrast to years past, where Wayne Pearce, they have had one of the worst away records of any side in the competition.
They certainly have, and Matt Elliott been scratching his head all last year to try and come up with a win. This year, they've taken their form on the road, and in this game, their form in the first 40 minutes was scratchy for the first 10-15 minutes. They settled down, they adjusted to having 12 players on the field, and they totally dominated that first half, 4 tries to 1.
We saw Manly come back into the game against the Newcastle Knights last weekend after trailing 18-0. They'll be looking for a similar performance against this under-strength Raiders outfit. First chance with the football in the second half. For the home side, Chad Randall utilising the short side and doing it well. Scott Donald is there in support. Stephen Menzies on his inside. And in the opening minute of the second half, the captain collects his second. That is the dream start to the second half for the home side.
And it was off the back of Chad Randall yet again. He's sensational on that short side out of dummy half. In fact, he's 4th in the NRL all season for line breaks behind Johns, Fittler and Gower. And Menzies back on the inside, finishes as he has done so many times throughout his career. But Chad Randall, short side specialist, knows when to run and invariably can make at least a half break. Great support by there. Scotty Donald chews up the turf, and Beaver on the inside, supporting, ever present, goes over, Jason to the uprights to put this Manly side in a position where they really now can look at the scoreboard and say, maybe we can go on with it from here. 12 players, the Raiders, this second half.
The Raiders most certainly running on very heavy legs. Ben Walker adds the extras from right in front. It was that man, Chad Randall, who initiated the attacking display down the short side. Ben Walker, whose involvement in this match has increased with Luke Williamson being knocked out in the 8th minute. Williamson will not be back. The Raiders' injury woes worsened with Ian Hindmarsh, who is now back on the bench suffering a head knock. Mark McLinden with a severely lacerated finger. He is yet to make his way back onto the field. The Raiders restarting play far earlier than they would have liked. Charging into the line. Mark Shipway in jersey number 20, a late replacement for Aaron Cannings. Hamono playing the ball-playing role. Solomon Hamono's involvement in this game has been nothing short of exceptional. 14 tackles, 6 hit-ups. In fact, make it 7. Tackle number 4. That's Tony Jensen. Some second phase football. They have an overlap on the right-hand side. Walker striding downfield, picks up McGuinness. Creary is looking on the inside. What a fabulous start to the second half this has been. 2 tries, 4 minutes, and the Sea Eagles are back.
The Sea Eagles are back with a vengeance, and it once again came off the back of the second phase play. Ben Walker, instrumental. Very fortunate to have Ben Walker on the bench to be able to come on to replace Luke Williamson. As we can see here, the ball pops out the back. Ben Walker does a little 360 and then sights an opportunity. He accelerates, got plenty of pace. Kevin McGuinness, he hits the accelerator as well, and then back on the inside, how do I say it? Creary, support play to go over for that try. But Ben Walker, tremendous vision, tremendous speed. And in fact, they've got some flyers out wide because McGuinness is quick and also Creary back on the inside. And what Manly have done is they've come up with second phase play, but they understand that in the second half, the Raiders are starting to fatigue, and out wide, the players are starting to not come up as quickly. They're getting caught short.
Not a lot of talk behind the Raiders' try line. They have been stunned by the high-flying Sea Eagles in the early minutes of this second half. Ben Walker, 2 from 2. And poorly struck from the pivot. He is disappointed with the strike. The difference remains 4. With 35 minutes remaining in this contest, it is the Raiders 20, the Sea Eagles 16.
And that breeze that was fairly strong in the first half behind the Manly side has dropped off somewhat in the second half. So
keep it on.
There's no luck in that area for the Raiders whatsoever.
Again, it's Mark Shipway.
Mark square, hands off.
In 20. Possession of the football. That statistic starting to slowly even itself out after an avalanche in favour of the Raiders in the opening half an hour. 4 tries to 3 in favour of the visitors, who lead by 4. Menzies. Short side play. McDougall was trapped. Off the ball. Menzies, the captain, holding on. Randall. Jensen in 16. This is the 5th and final tackle. Ben Walker is on the right-hand side. They go directly to him. Plenty of pressure applied by Alan Tongue, forcing the pivot with a left foot kick. Not getting the depth he would have liked. And ultimately awarding Clinton Chifovsky with far more metres than they would have liked.
And Chifovsky fairly fresh at the moment. That was only his 6th hit up of the game, which is very unusual for Clinton. He comes up generally with an excess of 20, 24 hit-ups in a match.
In fact, most hit-ups in the NRL going into round 22 with 404 in total. Most offloads, most running metres. It has been a top-class year for the Canberra fullback. He still could not crack a state of origin berth. Brad Drew is the go-to man, and he will test Albert Torrens with a high ball. Torrens, though, did not have to move off the blade of grass that he was standing on. Makes the best part of 12 metres. And it hit the defenders were a little high as the groan went around Brookvale Oval. McGuinness knocking on. Early in the count for the Eagles, that is disappointing. There was no structure early in the count. And it will allow the Raiders
Walk it in, Canberra.
an ideal opportunity to hit right back.
Yeah, well, I don't know what the Eagles players were thinking on that occasion. There's a long way to go in this match. The longer this game goes, the more heavy-legged the Raiders are going to become because they've only got 12 players on the field. They don't have to throw the ball around in their end of the field and take risks such as that.
The Raiders through Monahan, and the injury crisis, and it is crisis point worsens. Tyron Smith. They were looking at the rib cage of the rangy lock forward. He has gone directly back to the dressing room. His teammates are in prime real estate, and that is a good shot from Watmow. Back to Brad Drew. Ultimately, it ends up in the hands of Adam Moll. 8 metres out. Poor ball from acting half, ends up in the hands of Jason Croker. They lost 9 metres in the movement. This is tackle 4. Shafovsky looking to go straight through the middle and almost does. Well tackled by Jensen. Menzies there too, final tackle. Drew with a nice little grubber through. The ball beats attackers and defenders over the dead-end goal line. And the Seagulls wind up with a free 20 metres. It's lonely on the Raiders bench for the two big men, O'Hara and DeVico. And that is the whole Raiders bench at this stage. Woolford is out for the game. McLinden and Smith both injured. And there are doubts over both men returning to the field. Amono again. Hit up number 9 for Solomon. Just short of halfway, he is brought to the ground. Ben Walker. Long ball to McGuinness. Again, they have numbers. This is the side where the Raiders are vulnerable. Some good second phase footy back to Ben Walker. Look to get the ball through to Mitch Creary. A turnover of the footy. It ends up in the hands of Lulesi.
Well, once again, they're trying to force passes, trying to score on virtually every set. They've just got to be patient. The Manly side can sense a victory because they can see the Raiders' plays starting to look a little bit flat. But at the same time, that there's plenty of time left on the clock for them to work their way into position to sustain some pressure.
This is Troy Thompson. Luke DeVico has been injected into the match. Ruben Wiggy getting a well-earned break. This is Ian Highmarsh, who's involved in a horrific head knock midway through the first half. Brad Drew, up it goes. Pressure on Torrens. Mogg has put the ball down. We will go to the video.
Let's check that
and we will
onside.
have a look at the onside. My initial thought was that the outside men were offside. Drew took a long time to kick the football.
Well, that's what the video ref wants to look at. And Drew here puts the kick up. And we can see the outside player is onside, but the player that comes through immediately adjacent, does he go inside the 10 metres? No, he doesn't. I think that's fine. Both players come from an onside position. And I've got to say, Albert Torrens has looked very, very shaky at fullback all game. With the ball on the ground and with that ball in the air on that occasion, didn't look comfortable at all. And Adam Mogg in position to put the ball down, claim a try. I can't see any problems with this. I think he was onside.
Yeah,
and a perfectly positioned kick there by Brad Drew.
Both outside men on reflection were most definitely behind the kicker. It was that near man next to the halfback who stayed well outside of the 10-metre range. Our video referee once again is Phil Cooley, and the video referee awards the try. Manly Seagulls, after a fabulous start in the opening couple of minutes of the second half, again fall behind. The difference is now 8.
Well, it was a regulation catch here by Albert Torrens. It was a great kick by Brad Drew, but he had time to take this kick and would have been a 20-metre tap, but he just did not look comfortable under the high ball. And as I said, I don't think he's looked comfortable at fullback under the high ball or the ball on the ground all game. And Adam Mogg chased through in a position to claim the try. And that now gets the Raiders back on track because they were under siege since the opening minute of the second half.
Clinton Chafovsky preparing to add the extras, and the news from the Raiders dressing room is Tyron Smith has Injured rib cartilage. It is highly unlikely he will be back, and Mark McLinden has just moved on to the sideline for the Raiders. His hand heavily strapped. They've been passing him the football for the best part of the last 10 minutes, and he is in quite some discomfort. So to hold on will be quite some effort. Shafovsky looking to make the difference 10 with just under half an hour remaining. He has struck this one perfectly. Something to smile about for the Green Machine team, standing alone on the hill here at Brookvale, and there is Mark McLinden. Going through a few exercises.
Well, he's got to convince himself of a couple of things. Firstly, can he catch a football? Can he pass a football, which is the main role as a playmaker? And the second thing is, can he grip in tackles? Because he doesn't want to be a liability out there in defence either. So he's got to convince himself that, first and foremost. Then he's got to convince Matt Elliott, the coach, that he can go on there and make a contribution. At the moment, Reuben Wiki, well, he's the sole man on the bench. And when you've got, it's hard enough being down to a couple of bench players anyway in the game nowadays. But when you've got 12 men on the field and you're down to only one bench player, this will be a superhuman effort by the team if they can go on and win the game from here.
The Canberra Raiders face the Cowboys in Canberra next week, and it will be a depleted lineup if this injury count gets any worse. The Eagles working it out from their red zone through Mitch Creary. Shipway off for the Sea Eagles. Onto the field in jersey 10 returns Danny Lima. McGuinness finding Ben McDougall, looking to outpace Adam Mogg. He can't. He is brought down on tackle 3 just inside Raiders territory. The clouds have come over here on the Northern Peninsula. The lights are on at Brookvale Oval. And the breeze most certainly behind the visitors in this second stanza. Not an attacking kick, not really a territorial kick, somewhat in between kicks. That one, Wayne Pearce. Clinton Shafovsky reasonably easily gets out of the in goal.
Well, it was made into a good kick because in the end it was a good chase there by the Manly side. What they've got to try and do is they've got to jam their defensive line up. The Raiders aren't going to spread the ball on them and try and sting the Raiders, try and force them into an error down here.
DeVico spilling the ball out the back to Jason Croker, whose involvement has been good this afternoon. 10 tackles. That is 4th possession of the footy. Brad Drew wrestled to the ground on tackle number 3. Approaching the 40-metre line, again DeVico, not shirking his workload. Had a good breather the end of the first half and early into the second. Brad Drew just outside the 40-metre line. Turns Albert Torrens around. Not playing with a lot of confidence after that last try. He conceded. Torrens fumbled at the ball before making the best part of 6 metres. This is Creary. Poor ball from the wing 3/4. And luckily for the home side, a little knock on from the Raiders. Now a penalty, Eagles. They were let off the hook, Wayne.
Well, they were let off the hook there because once again they were forcing a stupid pass on that occasion. It's brain explosion stuff. It's the actions of a team that are at a loss to know what to do to overcome the Raiders when in fact they've got the upper hand. They really have. There's 24 minutes left on the clock. The Raiders have got effectively one and a half players on the bench. Oh, another mistake. They're just self-destructing.
That they are, and we have seen it before from the Eagles this year. Their match earlier in the year against the Tigers, some club legends described as their darkest day. They are not playing with any type of fluency, as the error statistic clearly indicates. 8 plays 2. Mark McLinden still waiting for an opportunity. Will he be rushed into it by Matthew Elliott? At far less than 100%. Shafovsky looking to open up the side.
And when I said 1.5 players on the bench, I was talking about Mark McLinden as half a player because he doesn't look too confident in his hand at the moment. So I think he'll only go on there if he has to.
Bugarelli in 4. Back to Alan Tongue in 18. They search high on Tongue, which is a mistake. He makes some good yards for the visitors. Looking to extend their lead at Canberra. They lead by 10. Good lines run by Troy Thompson. Well tackled by Ben McDougall, who goes in for a second go. And is penalised by referee Simpkins.
They're all set.
They will take the 2, and Shafovsky will take plenty of time in doing so.
No, he's tackled. No, he wasn't dominant. He's still going forward. The player's still going forward. He's tackled, then he goes on him again.
Well, Steve Menzies querying this tackle by Ben McDougall, the second effort by Ben McDougall. The player was tackled. He was trying to get up and play the football. Ben McDougall came back at him, and that's a fair enough penalty against the Manly side, which gives the Raiders an opportunity now to put another 2 points on the board, give them a 12-point buffer in this match with 12 players on the field. It's been a titanic effort by, well, not the Titanic, I suppose. They went down, didn't they? But it's been a sensational effort by the Raiders to get themselves into this position, given the circumstances that have confronted them with injuries and the send-off after 8 minutes of Simon Woolford.
Shafovsky should have no problem in adding the extras here.
And the Canberra players were as we can see, Mark McGlinnan still trying to contemplate whether his hand's going to be good enough.
That's literally sitting there twiddling your thumbs, waiting to get into action. Shafovsky kicking at 50% for the afternoon, well below his year and career strike rate. He adds the extras, much to the delight of the Canberra and Clinton Shafovsky fans around Brookvale Oval. And with 21 minutes remaining, the difference is now 2 converted tries. The Raiders have not suffered like a lot of other teams as far as injuries go over the course of 2003. Michael Wayman, Ben Cross and Terry Martin, the 3 players unavailable for selection for this round 22 clash, but that list will grow appreciably next week. That is Luke DeVico.
Well, he's one bloke that's had injuries this year, but he's been able to push through the pain barrier and get himself on the field each and every week, and that's something that has been a huge benefit of huge benefit to what about Ryan O'Hara as well. He just keeps going, time after time after time. He just keeps ploughing through that line.
The Eagles seem to be without confidence and without communication at the moment. Croker, midway through the count, bustles forward, carries a couple with him and makes 6 metres. This is DeVico again. Front row, outstanding for the Raiders. Brad Drew. This is the final tackle. They decide to keep the ball in hand to Clinton Shafovsky, and why not? Shafovsky has beaten the lot of them en route to the try line, and that could very well be the try that secures victory for the visitors.
Yeah, great effort there. Firstly, by Brad Drew to have the vision. He saw that the Eagles' defensive line was a little disjointed. So the ball goes out to Drew. He contemplates a kick. He says, no, there's an opportunity out wide. And Shafovsky, how quick is he when he hits the accelerator? Poor old Albert Torrens is having a shocker at the back. Wasn't in position to. I don't think he even got a touch on Shafovsky in the end. But Drew here, he says, well, I kick. No, there he is. Shafovsky outside me. Torrens, well, yeah, he gets a hand on him, but wasn't in position to make the tackle. And well, that really does give Canberra an enormous roll on in this second half. And Shafovsky, he's been fairly quiet in this match, has had limited opportunities, but when he does inject himself, he is dynamite.
It is the type of form that he started the season with, Clinton Shafovsky. 8 tries for the season and increasing his points tally this afternoon to 12, looking to make it 14 with this kick. That looks like a beaten side, the Sea Eagles. Plenty of concern on the face of the Raiders. Tyron Smith making his way back from the dressing sheds. And either he's put on 12 kilos in the last 8 minutes or the ribs are extremely heavily taped. I would suggest it's the latter. Shafovsky. The Raiders scoring tries in quick time here. 16 points the difference, and it has happened so quickly. Too easy for Clinton Shafovsky. The Raiders hold a commanding lead with 18 minutes remaining. It is 34-16 in favour of the visitors. The Manly bench, they too looking a little worse for wears. Shipway, Jensen and Lima.
Yeah, they look a little dispirited, the Manly side at the moment. They've actually played very well over recent weeks. Manly, they beat the Broncos a couple of weeks ago, and they were a little unlucky to be beaten by the Knights. Both those games were away from home. It's the first time they've been back at Brookvale, and one would expect them to really put up a huge showing against the Raiders. But I've got to say, on what we've seen so far in this game, they've only played in patches.
DeVico again has been inspirational. We look at our referee, and if omens are your thing, Paul Simpkins has refereed Canberra 3 times this year. They have won all 3 occasions. He's refereed Manly twice. They've lost twice.
Forward, then back.
So that statistic certainly pointed in favour of yet another Canberra victory, and that is exactly where we're headed.
Well, that was an interesting decision there. Paul Simpkins ruled that the Raiders knocked the football on. I thought it was stripped from the Raiders, which means that the Manly side get the feed from this scrum.
And they must score, and must score quickly if they want to fare in this after 80 minutes. The forward pack is tiring for the Raiders. They've made far more tackles than that of the Raiders, and that defensive fatigue is starting to set in. Hamono on the fringes has been devastating. He continues that form. A quick play the ball. Back to the open side they go, another drop ball. A turnover in possession. And the Eagles are looking for a way to confirm a loss.
Yeah, they are, but you talk about Solomon Hamono. This is the best game I've seen him play all season. I know he played quite well last week, but this is the best game I've seen him play all season. He's hitting the ball at speed, he's hitting hard in defence, and his work rate has been first class.
And after that professional boxing career, albeit a brief one, he certainly has that intimidation factor. 61% of the football has gone in favour of the attacking side, the Canberra Raiders. Quite simply, Wayne, the way the game is in 2003, if you are playing against a side that has 62% of the footy, it is highly unlikely you are going to figure at the end of it.
And there's 2 reasons for that. One is that Canberra have been super disciplined with the football. They realise that they've only got 12 players on the field. They need to get to complete their sets. They've completed 31, cop this, 31 out of 33 sets, which is phenomenal. On the other side of the coin, Manly, they just keep turning the football over. They've only completed 18 out of 26.
You can hear this Brookvale Oval crowd and the boos, and they are directed at their home side, who have been very ordinary over the last 20-odd minutes. They started the second half in brilliant form. 2 quick tries, they were back to within 4 points, but since then it has been all the Raiders. Chad Randall with a midfield knock-on.
Well, they're doing some good things, particularly on the right-hand side. They're doing some good things out on the right-hand side in attack, but when they tend to go too far lateral, look at this pass, shades of Matt Gidley there, pops it out the back, and then the support play is great. Creary comes back on the inside, then he puts a lateral pass on, and Chad Randall doesn't hold it, and opportunities, the number of opportunities that have gone begging in this game, I'd hate to be in Peter Sharp's shoes. Well, Manly 10 mistakes.
10 mistakes to just 3. And several of them have led directly to points. Whether they'll be punished for that last indiscretion, we'll find out at the end of this set of 6. DeVico again. Seems every second or third hit up, we're saying that man's name. Croker. Inside ball to Bungarelli. Finally, a dominant tackle from the Seagulls, because they have been outplayed at the ruck in both attack and defence since the opening whistle. Brad Drew looking for the one-pointer and struck it perfectly. That his second field goal for the year, Brad Drew. The difference is now out to 19.
And for those of us that aren't mathematicians, that means that the Sea Eagles have to score 4 tries in 13 minutes to win this football game.
Which at this rate is highly, highly unlikely. There's Brad Drew, high fives all round from the Raiders, and why not? And the crowd is slowly starting to file out of Brookvale Oval with just over 10 minutes remaining.
Yeah, it's been a disappointing performance by the Sea Eagles overall in this game. They haven't been able to match the go forward of the Raiders. Early on, first 20 minutes of this game, they were enthusiastic. They were up in the Raiders' defence. They were causing problems. But by and large, they've been dominated in the ruck. They haven't been able to stop the Raiders go forward, and they've paid the price for it.
This is the final tackle, keeping in mind they've been dominated by an outfit minus a man. After just 8 minutes, Shafovsky.
Well,
an awkward little grubber to Scott Donald.
To compound it, Woolford's been off their dummy half since the 8th minute of the game, and McClendon's been off for the second half. And when you take your dummy half out of the game, your first receiver out of the game, and you're down to 12 men, technically you should really struggle. But the Raiders have just gone from strength to strength in the second half.
And keeping in mind, Mark McClendon came off after just 29 minutes, so they've done most of it without him. And that is all too easy for the Canberra winger Joel Monahan, and that is a hat-trick for the wing three-quarter. It is bordering on embarrassing as the Sea Eagles fans get up from their seats, fold the rugs up, pack the eskies. They are headed to the car.
Yes, well, Manly, they try to do the right thing. They're trying to go around them, but Joel Monahan in position. The ball came straight to him. The Manly's players are just catching and passing without looking, and they are just demoralised at the moment. To be beaten by a score of this magnitude by a team that's only got 12 men, and their dummy half and their halfback haven't been on the field for the majority of the game. It's, well, let's talk about the Raiders, what a great effort it is from the Raiders to be able to do that. But Manly, they've got to be very, very unhappy with themselves behind the goalpost there at the moment. Yet, when you cast your mind back to the start of the second half, when they scored those 2 quick tries just straight after half-time, you thought, well, yeah, we've got a ball game here. Maybe they can go on with it. But since that point in time, they've just dropped off the pace. They just haven't been able to compete. Desi Hasler, he's out there at the moment. He's going to be in a different situation next year. He's not going to be able to get out there and shout the orders. He's going to be in the grandstand as coach. So that'll be a somewhat unfamiliar role for him next year.
And what this is doing, and Matthew Elliott would know exactly that, is increasing the differential points for and points against for the Raiders as the hunt for the minor premiership and top 4 position intensifies. Clinton Shafovsky adds the extras from directly in front, and with just over 10 minutes remaining, the scoreline reads 41-16. Heads are down in the Sea Eagles camp, and for the Raiders, their differential with the score as it is increases to 147, and the competition leading Roosters after this round are 190. So they are slowly moving in, one step closer to a potential minor premiership.
And their defence has been outstanding in this game. In the whole game, they've only conceded 12 missed tackles with only 12 players on the field. That's an outstanding effort, whereas Manly, they've conceded 21 missed tackles. But at the same time, the Raiders have been super disciplined in the football, and I think at the end of the day, the why they've been able to compete has revolved very much around the fact that they've completed their sets. They've had 36 sets. They've completed 34 of those sets. Well, that's it. I'll put the mocker on.
Put the mocker on.
Still not bad. That's 34 out of 37 sets, which is, in anyone's language, a tremendous effort.
I know the Sea Eagles haven't been good today, but the crowds are headed directly to the turnstiles. But not only because their side is losing, but the rain is also starting to fall on what started as a beautiful winter's day. Dawn playing at first receiver from the scrum base, finds McDougall. Couldn't get the hands through to Scott Donald, who was on his left-hand side. Life does not get any easier for the Sea Eagles, because next week they are back at Brookvale Oval and they play host to the Bulldogs. So it could be a long end to the season for the boys from the Peninsula. Menzies at acting half. Walker to Scott Donald. They have lost 20 metres in the movement, and then Donald knocks on. Applying the pressure, a young man who has been fabulous in attack and inspirational in defence, the big wing three-quarter, that man, Joel Monaghan.
Yeah, he's made the most of every opportunity today, and he's a player that's got a huge future. I think he's destined for representative football down the track. But the hard thing for the Manly side, and I suppose any of the sides that are at the bottom end of the table with 4 rounds of the competition to go, is to maintain your intensity and enthusiasm and find a reason for getting up week in, week out. I mean, it should come back to pride, but for some guys, it's players playing for their contracts.
Clinton Shafovsky hobbling away from the play the ball. And there's a sloppy ending in miserable conditions. Albert Torrance colliding with Shafovsky right on halfway. You can see the middle of the field right there next to Torrance's right hand, the sand mound that's been used as the kicking mound all day, and that's exactly what Torrance slid over on. Here you see the two of them.
Whoa. Looked like Suncorp Stadium there in the first Origin.
Also looked like a little bit of legwork possibly from Albert Torrance as the rain continues to fall. That's what Clinton Shafovsky was complaining about, and Shafovsky also making his way from the field. The Cowboys, the Knights, the Bulldogs and the Roosters. That is Canberra's run home.
But interestingly, they've got 3 of those games as home matches, so that's a nice way to finish your season. And if you have aspirations to win the competition, what you want to have is you want to have a pretty tough run into the finals, so you're match fit. You're not oh, man, you come up with another knock on. But if you're going into the finals, ideally you want a couple of good hit-outs, good tough hit-outs against top sides so that you can fine-tune. 13 errors, Manly handling errors.
The rain sweeping across Brookvale Oval.
Heads down, stay down.
Clinton
Head down.
Shafovsky.
Head down, far side prop.
Is now playing on the left wing. Bugarelli at 5'8". So it has been a bits and pieces side for much of it. In fact, Shafovsky has now come from the field. Taking his place as Mark McLinden in jersey number 7 has seen 29 minutes of football so far this afternoon. Drew with a knock on. It's contagious.
Well, it's hard for players to adjust to changing conditions. Mark McLennan backed out there on the field for the last few minutes of the match.
And playing on the wing.
Yes, well, he doesn't want to have to do too much, but obviously
seconds in,
he feels he can make a contribution. But it's hard for players to adjust when the game's been dry for much of the game, then all of a sudden you get a downpour because they've got to adjust their style, they've got to adjust their handling, and some players have difficulty doing that.
And the only consolation for the Sea Eagles with the rain is the fact so many of their loyal fans have left the ground. The boo is going to be less when they make their way from the field. Hamono diving well. In a badly beaten side, Hamono has been a highlight. Jason King, who has also been good by and large for the Sea Eagles, as their completion rate continues to go from bad to worse. With just over 5 minutes remaining, their completion rate now reads 18 of 31.
A few seconds. Ball in.
And news from the dressing rounds is that Clinton Shafovsky's got some sort of an ankle injury, so let's hope it's not too serious from the Raiders' point of view, because they've got a few other injuries and problems that they'll be taking out of this match. And
with the hint of a trip, we perhaps might hear a little bit more about that. Albert Torrance on the deck. Lunged, we believe, with a foot to halt the progress of Clinton Shafovsky, leading to the injury.
Well, Andy, you believe. I believe he stepped and made contact. I don't think there's any problem with it at all. It was very, very sloppy at the middle of the field there.
McLinden looking to set up number 4 for Monaghan, and does. A near perfect afternoon for the big winger on a rainy day in Sydney. We're going to check the onside. McLinden's impact, Williamson's coming back onto the field immediate.
Yeah, well, he didn't get stuck out on the wing for too long. But what about the Manly left side defence? They've been in tatters all match. Monahan well onside, comes up. Looks to me he's got good downward pressure. Does he stay infield? I think he does. Perfectly weighted kick, and yes, that's a try. Pinpoint accuracy with the kick by McLinden.
And fabulous finishing work from Monahan, who has illustrated a whole range of skills this afternoon, collecting this his fourth.
Yeah, no problems with that put down at all. And Mark McLennan, he'll be pretty happy with that. Didn't get tackled, or hasn't been tackled since he came back on the field. Hasn't had to make a tackle yet, set up a try. So great tactical ploy there by Matty Elliott to send him back on.
Once again, our video referee is Phil Cooley. No problems with that one. It is the Raiders' 8th try of the afternoon in a convincing performance over the Manly Sea Eagles. Perhaps there is an opportunity with just over 4 minutes remaining for this man, Joel Monahan, to collect number 5. If he did, he would equal Mal Meninga's club record of 5. And Big Chicken George collecting that against Eastern Suburbs at Bruce Stadium in 1990. Canberra won that clash 66 points to 4. A new kicker with Clinton Shafovsky from the field. Certainly boosts up the averages somewhat. 4 today, moves it up to 16 for the year. Most of his career tries coming in 2003. Brad Drew. What an angle. He has struck it absolutely perfectly. That'll bring a smile to the young half's face. Oh, Matt Elliott thinks it's hilarious. He has now got a second string kicker. And he kicked it because Clinton Shafovsky is off the field. And that is the reason why. And for mine, Wayne, and I believe we agree to disagree, I think the foot was struck out there on purpose. Shafovsky off the field nonetheless. The final exchanges of this round 22 clash. O'Hara continues to run with the depth and the enthusiasm that he was in the opening minutes.
Yeah, and I've got to give a huge, huge rap to the Canberra forwards today, led by O'Hara, Wiki, DeVico. When they lost Woolford, they all realised they had to step up. Jason Kroger, he's been in there doing a lot of the hard work, hard yards as well. Even Ruckinson, Thompson off the bench. Now, they've all been superb, and that's where they've just been too strong, too powerful for the Manly side, is in the forwards. Their forwards have laid the foundation, as they have done for much of the season, and the Manly side just have not been able to compete.
A long kick from McLinden downfield finds Mitch Creary, who has now moved back to fullback, and Alan Tung greets him in a very physical tackle, along with Jason Bugarelli. Watt now crabbing across field, just on 2 minutes remaining. The Manly supporters are pleading for the mercy rule and for time off to be blown immediately. It can't come soon enough. It has been a nightmare afternoon. Menzies out of acting half. Canberra's fortunes as we approach semi-final time certainly looking positive. 115 points in total today they scored in first grade and Premier League, and it is a Premier League side with plenty of talent, indicating the depth in the national capital. Walker gets a last tackle option high in the air. McLinden is at the back, does not want to get tackled with a bad hand, and almost submits in the Ben McDougall tackle. Very ginger with the left paw. This is Monahan. He's going to have to run 90 metres if he wants to equal the record set by the famous and legendary Mal Meninga. Brad Drew looking for the long ball initially, decides against it. Redirects the attack. How well will Canberra come up out of this encounter? a massive injury list. So I said earlier, they face the Cowboys in the national capital next weekend. McLinden, Croker. He puts boot to ball. An opportunity for Bugarelli. Creary is there as well. Bugarelli chips inside. Gets the bounce. That is simply magic from the Raiders. They can't do a thing wrong. They have reached 50. That is their 9th try, and they have got every reason to smile.
Yeah, it was a great effort in the end. They put quite a few kicks in behind the line, looking for the space in behind the line in this game. On this occasion, Jason Croker, I think it's the first kick he's put through all game, puts it in. A great chase there by Bugarelli. He's got plenty of speed, gets a tremendous bounce and goes over. Scores the try right, well, when I say right on full time, 30 seconds before full time, but Croker was a speculator. There was nothing really doing at that time, but he got the bounce. And soccer skills, great soccer skills, managed to keep the ball in field, goes over for the try, and that really does blow the score out. And something that the Raiders are very happy. There's Clint Shivosky on the bench, headphones on, doing an interview. In the middle of the interview, he stands up and says, yes. And he's been a real find for them this year as well, Jason Bugarelli.
This only his 4th outing in the top grade for the Canberra Raiders. And it is a day all the Raiders will remember fondly. Jason Croker taking the kick. Didn't have the direction, didn't have the legs at full time. It is the Canberra Raiders 51, the Manly Sea Eagles disappointing 16.